Most business owners build their life around their business. And that's actually why many of them are unhappy, miserable, and have been falling out of love with their business. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to flip the script and design a business that actually serves you and your own life in the upcoming year, not the other way around. Now, the best part is you actually don't have to sacrifice profit to do this. In fact, the businesses that we've built this way typically see 40 to 50% profit margins or more while still having the owner take Fridays off. Now, if you're new here, my name is Greg Hickman. I'm the founder of Alt Agency, and I actually just finished training a bunch of our private clients and members on this exact same framework. And over the last handful of years, we've used it to help 800 owners build their business around their dream lifestyle. One of our clients, Nathan, actually went from working a crazy schedule where his friends actually had an intervention with him to dialing in his work week, planning out his year so that he took time off, finally enjoys weekends now. And the byproduct of that was his business actually doubled while now working less and taking more time for himself. I really think that this is something that can help you. It's something that I've been doing in every single year since I've started this. I haven't missed the family vacations. I've spent more time doing the things that I love that are not business related, like mountain biking, spending time with my children, hanging out with my friends, being a part of my community, and exploring other interests and hobbies that I have. And so if that's something that you've been yearning to do, but business has always gotten in the way, it's time to follow a process to make sure that your business goes around your life. Now, I want to give a quick shout out to two people that I learned this process from originally, Taki Moore from $1 Million Coach and Dale Beaumont. These are two people that I love and adore and have kind of introduced this model to me. I've modified it for my own purposes. We actually have two different trainings that we take our clients through. One is this, where it's really about kind of designing your personal life over the course of the year so that you can then build your business around it. And then we do a training called the Revenue Roadmap, which is really where does the business then fit in and how do you hit your business goals around the lifestyle that you just designed. So today we are going to dive into the lifestyle piece because it's where I see a lot of agency owners fall short. Now, the first principle that I really want to dive into that is critical for making sure that you're actually successful with this in the first place is what I call the me first principle. So many of you, if you're watching this, probably put everybody else but you first. You put your clients that are paying you the most money first. You put your family first. You put your children first. And while that sounds good in theory, it leaves you emotionally and energetically tapped. It's what I'm seeing lead to a ton of burnout. In order to kind of execute on this me first possibility, you need to understand that I and you can only pour from a full cup, from a full glass. If the glass is empty, you have nothing in the tank to give, right? But if you have a glass that's full, you can give from a surplus, right? So I want you to have a surplus. I want you to have a surplus of energy. I want you to have a surplus of creativity, a surplus of energy, a surplus of love and affection that you can then give to everyone around you that matters the most. But if you got none of that, it's going to be hard for you to show up day in and day out on an empty tank. I find that when I go through these exercises and these frameworks, that we actually end up in a place where no matter the week, I actually am showing up more times than not at my best for those that matter most. Now, I'm human. We get sick. We have bad days and bad weeks, but more so than not, when you design your business around your life so that you are focused on the things that you love, you have the schedule that you've dreamed of, you show up in a whole different way that actually is making everybody else better too. So that's what I mean when I say you can only give from a surplus. To set the context of this, one of my mentors taught me that in entrepreneurship, you actually have to define your field of play. The foundational piece of this is what we call the business lifestyle return. If you've ever played any sort of sports, I used to play basketball and lacrosse, you hop on the field and their lines are already painted and you know the rules of the game. You were taught the rules of that sport. And so you hop on and there's no question, you know what's inbounds, what's out of bounds, you know what the scoreboard looks like, you know how to score, all those things. But in business, when you get started, you typically just start with a blank sheet of paper, that has nothing on it. And the beauty in that is you get to define what success looks like. You get to draw the lines on your field of play. The problem is that most entrepreneurs, and even myself included when I got started, we skip that part. You're out there chasing some random number or random dream, and you're like, am I winning? I'm not sure. It feels like I'm winning, but I actually don't. I feel like I should feel like I'm winning, but I'm not. So what's going on? It's because we never took the time to draw the lines on the field, our field of play. You got to take time to do that. And so what we do with our clients is an exercise that we call the business lifestyle return. It's looking at your business through the three currencies: time, energy, and money. And we do them in that order. So the first lens that we look through is time. And when we look through the lens of time, we're really trying to ask ourselves, like, what does our ideal week look like? What does our ideal month look like? What does our ideal quarter look like? What does our ideal year look like? What are the rules? And I want you to be realistic. So for example, for me, I want to work Mondays to Thursdays, 9 to 4, with Wednesday actually taking off at 1 or 2 p.m. so I can go mountain biking. Quarterly, I want to do at least no more than 2 business trips that are max 3 nights. I don't want to travel before 6 a.m. I don't want to travel after 8 p.m. I want at least 1 week of flex time for vacations and relaxing and home stuff each and every quarter. Those are my rules, right? That I get to play by. This is really about designing the schedule that is going to be sustainable for you, right? So what is your ideal schedule? Now, the next piece is energy. When we look at our energy, we need to ask ourselves, when we're working in that schedule that we just defined, where is our energy being spent? What do you see your role in the business being? What do you see as not your role? There's certain things that I love doing in the business. I want to be responsible for creating content. I want to be training our clients. I want to be creating YouTube videos. I want to be mapping out our business strategy. I don't want to be on sales calls. I don't want to be managing tons of people. I don't want to be doing administrative work, which means once I identify what my role is, I can figure out what days of the week in my schedule I can do those things, but I also figure out what sort of people on my team do I need to help me. So what roles do I need around me? And so these are things that we work on with our clients to figure out, like, what are the rules of the business? Where do I want to play? Where do I not? And then you need to ask yourself, like, are there any other rules for your business? Like any other constraints that you might have? So that's how we look at time and energy. Then the last piece is money. And when I say money, I mean take-home pay. Because if you're not paying yourself as the owner, and you're putting in all this effort and energy, and you feel like there's no payoff, you're going to bow out at some point. You're going to be like, why am I doing this? Is this even worth it? Maybe you've been there. What I've been taught and I recommend is always look at the floor first. I see a lot of people say, like, I want to build like a $10 million a year business, or I want to take home like $1 million a year profit. But that's like their ceiling. I want to make sure that if I have my ideal schedule and I'm only spending my time on the things that I want to spend my time on, and I have the right people around me to help, if I'm making at least this much money, I would do this for as long as I possibly can, because why wouldn't I? I have my ideal schedule. I get to do all the things that I love, as long as I'm making this minimum. Now, what I'm saying here is that doesn't mean we can't make more. Like, sweet. Like, I'm just saying, think and plan for the floor at a minimum so you know what the minimum level of requirement is to make this whole thing worth it. I see so many people spend all of this time and energy and it's still not worth it. You can always go above, you can always go beyond whatever number you put in your take home. And don't pick a pipe dream, but you can go above and beyond as long as you don't compromise your energy and your time. This is why we do it last, right? A lot of people will say, hey, I'll take on that client that's going to pay me an extra $100K a year. And then you find out that that means no more ideal week. You're now spending a lot of time on things that you don't like doing just for the money, and you've compromised the whole thing. So I always want to define my schedule, how I want to spend my energy, and then how much money do I want to get from that. Many of you, like me, had to build to this, but having the goals and the constraints give us something to work towards, right? So it's not like you just magically get this. You're not like entitled to that. You have to earn this, right? But having a clear target is really helpful, because guess what? Once you start executing, you're going to be presented with opportunities that are going to make you have to rethink that. And there's been plenty of times where I've gotten tremendous opportunities and I've had to go back and look at what I defined in my business lifestyle return. And I got to look at myself in the mirror and say, look, if I want this opportunity, I'm going to have to go and change a bunch of this stuff. Am I really willing to do that? And more times than not, the answer is no. And so it's a really good recalibration tool when you're getting presented with certain opportunities and if you're evaluating certain decisions. And look, if the opportunity is so great and you're willing to modify or change what your ideal schedule and or how you want to spend your energy looks like, then you can. I revisit this frequently. It's a living, breathing document. And depending upon what season of life you're in, your document might look a little bit different. But when we plan this way, we kind of give ourselves those guide rails. Like if you've ever gone bowling with children and they put up the little inflatable things or the side tracks so that the ball can't go in the gutter. That's really what we're doing here. We're creating the lines and the bumpers so that we don't go in the gutter when it comes to how we spend our time and on what for what a certain amount of money. So now understanding that and having some of those guide rails, when we look at the upcoming year, we want to look at the rocks, the pebbles, and the sand. We've all probably heard the story of the teacher who got in front of the classroom and put a jar on the table and said, hey, look, if we want to fit as much of this stuff in the jar, what order would you put it in? And he kind of went through a couple examples. And basically what the moral of the story is the rocks are your priorities, right? They're the biggest ones. You want to make sure that those get in the jar first. Then you want to put in the pebbles. Then you want to pour the sand in because the sand will fill into all of those little crevices. If you just fill the whole jar with sand and then you try to put the rocks in it, the rocks won't go in. We want to look at what are your personal rocks. For us, with our business and with our clients, what we look at is first vacations. I sit down with my wife and we talk about what vacations we want to go on. We have a list of places we want to go to. And we look at which of those places do we want to try to hit this upcoming year. And we'll decide. And then we'll look at the calendar and we'll map out on that calendar when those vacations are likely going to take place. It works for me because I like to plan my year out. Through my wife's job, she needs to request vacations 6 months in advance. And so when we can get on the same page, she can go request and get the vacation time that she wants because we've been well thought out. So we look at where do we want to go, what vacations do we want to do this year, and we block out those weeks first. Then we look at things for personal growth. Personal growth is, I look at like your health and or maybe your wealth, your relationships, maybe spirituality. These are things that you're investing time, money, and energy into to grow, but aren't necessarily tied to your business. So for example, I hired a personal trainer that I've worked with all this year to work out more consistently, get on a better diet. And that was an investment. It took time. I have to allocate time each and every week, multiple times a week, to do the activities that allow me to hit my fitness goals. Personal growth, I want to get better at mountain biking. And so I'm racing more, I'm on a team, and there's events that need to be on the calendar that I want to make sure that I go to that bring me joy and fulfillment. Those are going on the calendar. Then we have what I just call hard things. I believe that your ability to withstand difficult times in business, volatile times in business, which they will come, and in life they will come, are much easier to deal with when you voluntarily subscribe to do hard things. Hard things can range for a lot of different people. For some, it's signing up for that half marathon. For some, it's being more present. I know I get challenged with that sometimes. A lot of us can doom scroll, right? When we should be present with our child. It's sad, actually, that in today's world, that being present and being focused on something, wholeheartedly focused, is actually hard work because there's so many distractions and things vying for our attention. Maybe it's a physical exercise. Maybe it's, you getting cold, meaning like hopping in the cold plunge or doing the sauna or committing to a certain diet. Right? There's a lot of different ways and versions of what hard looks like for each of us. But when you commit to and voluntarily subscribe yourself up to something that is challenging, waking up early, maybe that's what you're committing to. Your ability to do those things will make other hard things that happen to you and come your way that you have no control over much easier to handle. I can tell you that tracking my food every single day for over a year is a lot harder than dealing with some of the clients that have left over the years. Waking up at 4:30 a.m. to start my workout or to do a cold plunge before all the kids wake up or to read and do those things. That's hard to do every single day. But if you commit to it, when the other bad thing happens, it's going to be a lot easier to deal with because you've been primed to handle difficult, challenging things. And so you have to voluntarily do that. Those are kind of the three rocks that I look at. You might have some other things that might be a rock for you. That's fine. But we want to plan those first. Those go on the calendar first. Then we look at our pebbles, right? Our pebbles is when I look to break down a lot of this stuff, what's going to be required to get there, to what are my weekly, my monthly, my quarterly, and the yearly other activities they want to do. This might be my weekly team mountain bike ride, the quarterly staycation with my wife. It might be the school days that are off or the days that I want to go to be a part of some of the school activities for my children, right? Those are things that are important that I want to make sure that I'm there for. Certain birthdays, that like family events that we do every year, those would go under annual. Like we always do Thanksgiving and Christmas together, right? I want to get those on there. You might know that this upcoming year, there are certain milestone events, maybe big birthdays are happening this year. There's certain things you want to do on a monthly, weekly, again, quarterly basis that you want to make sure in there. We plan those. And then the sand are little things like any other sort of development, maybe other events, maybe other friends, birthdays. Again, some of my pebbles might be your sand and vice versa. Any other sort of health/fitness goals, maybe hobbies that you want to learn, any other sort of learning. Maybe you want to learn a new language or an instrument or something, getting into those and finding time, those might be sand. And so when you have all of these things, what we do is we plot them on a calendar. And so like we look at this calendar, we have our events on it, like these are our client events. And so what I start to do is I sit down with my wife and I start planning our trips and we start brainstorming. It's like, hey, we're going to go to Disney in January. We're going to Utah in March. These are our retreats. I put my bike races on there and we start brainstorming. And it's sort of like a game of Jenga or Tetris rather, where it's like you start to see where things can fit and you'll start to be able to quality control this against your energy. For example, we do 4 retreats with our clients every single year. If I were to do a vacation, which let's say a vacation is orange, I would not want to do a vacation right here and then go right into a retreat. So knowing that when my retreats are and when we're looking at vacation, I'm going to more strategically plan when I go on vacation, right? I'm going to put that afterwards. You might say, for myself, like I want to be on my mountain bike ride every Wednesday with my team because we do that on Wednesdays. I can come down here and look at every single Wednesday and highlight Wednesdays in blue. And very quickly, you get a sense of where you're going to have conflict and overlap, like right there. There's a Wednesday. I'm not going to be able to make that Wednesday ride because we have a retreat. And so you start to see where you're going to run into obstacles. And as you start filling in when you want things to happen, you're going to see almost like a visual stress test. Like, man, like how does this feel? I get to try on this schedule. Am I going to like going on vacation and then having to come back and hop right into that conference? Am I going to want to go on vacation this time of year when I know it's filled with a lot of potential family events? That's how we start to plan it. So what I do is we start mapping this out and I take the lead and then I bring it to my wife and we look through it and then we start kind of collaborating and it becomes a collaborative experience. It makes it a lot of fun because guess what? When we roll into the new year and we already know where we're going on what days, we get to start doing other activities together. We get to start planning the trip as a family, as a couple. We get to start putting together to-do lists that are leading up to it. Most importantly, we get to start putting money aside. If we know that we're going on a trip in the fall of the upcoming year and it's going to be a $10,000 trip, well, we can start putting some money aside each and every month so that when we get to October, we're not just like, oh my God, how are we going to pay for this? I don't know about you, but for me, I like to roll into my year knowing where I need to be in a way where I'm going to make sure that I finish the year saying, man, I'm so glad we did all of those things versus finishing the year and saying, man, where did the year go? We said we were going to do all this stuff and it never happened. I live my life from a lifestyle first and I put my business around that. So I fill in all of the things on a calendar like this. There's tons of different calendars that you can find online. Visually put it on paper. Run it up the flagpole with whoever, your team, your spouse, your family, to get them involved, get their priorities on there. And what you'll find is a few things. One, you're going to realize that you don't have as much time to do all of the things, and you're going to really have to hone in on those priorities. Then you're going to see where that little white space exists. And when potential opportunities arise, if you want to participate in them or add new things, you can go and look where you have white space and fill it in. When you do this, I think you're going to finish your year more fulfilled, more satisfied. And it's also going to force you to get really creative with how you structure your business so that you can make enough money to hit that schedule. And again, I think the biggest thing here is be realistic. Like obviously you're not going to be on vacation every month, like not work the entire year. Like we're very realistic. We take 3 to 4 vacations a year and many long weekends. And I participate in a lot of different activities. So does my wife. And so it's like, we get all those on the calendar and guess what? they end up happening. And business goes on, and we plan around making sure that all of the things that we intended to get done this year get done. So if you're looking to build a business on your own terms, and it starts with you planning and putting you and your family and your interests and your hobbies first, if that sounds like something that you want more of, then I recommend you check out this video, because I break down our entire business model that allows us to do that, because we only have to work 3 to 4 days a week.